Everybody, it's me again, Matt Fouch here with another Fouch and Friends interview. Hope you're enjoying these chats that I'm having with gospel music artists. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and come back frequently for more interviews with your favorite gospel music artist and for more solo music from me if you enjoy bass singing. Today we're talking with Wyatt Austin. He is the most recent recipient of Bass Singer of the Year for the Singing News Fan Awards, and of course he is with the Inspirations Quartet. They received Quartet of the Year and many other rewards at this year's NQC from the Singing News magazine. Hope you enjoyed this chat that I had with Wyatt. Here we are today for Fouch and Friends. Thank you all so much for being here. Wyatt, I appreciate your time today, brother.
Yes, sir, brother. It's good to be here.
Hey, we scheduled this for another time and life happens. Fortunately, we've been able to get it together today and I'm looking forward to it. Now, I just want to let everybody watching know that before we hit the record button, Wyatt was starting a pot of coffee, I believe. And so, y'all, this is going to be real life. It's going to be fun. You're going to see we're recording this at 9:30 in the morning. Have you had your first cup yet? I mean, is this the second pot or the first pot?
This is the first pot.
Okay. Well, anytime you need to go get it, I've already got mine here. Just go ahead and go get your cup of coffee while we're talking, and that'll be awesome.
There's no telling what'll come out of my mouth since I've not had it. Yeah.
Well, we want to be careful with that. But
Right.
man, I appreciate you taking time to join us today. If you guys aren't following Wyatt on social media, man, you put out some great content. You put out some fun videos, a lot of music videos, a lot of singing. You're singing with a lot of different individuals and different groups from the past, people from current, groups from current, and then of course you're with the Inspirations. So man, tell me just what it seems like your passion is preaching and gospel music. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong on that.
No, well, I could do that all day, every day. I
Yeah,
mean, last month, I think I was only in my own home 2 nights. And so I'm just constantly on the go because I love it so much. And especially now preaching, whew, mercy. It's wearing me out, but it's worth it. My thought is, while I'm young and can, I want to do all I can for the Lord. So,
sure. Yeah. Now, how has that the preaching? I think I saw a post from you when you first had announced that calling, that you had said, you're still going to fulfill all the dates with Inspirations. You're still going to do all of that. That's going to be the full-time thing pretty much. And then you'll be filling pulpits or doing revivals or preaching, from time to time as those opportunities come up. Is that still kind of how that's going for you?
yes. And thankfully, the Inspirations don't sing on Sundays. So that makes it to where I can, if it's within driving distance from where we leave the bus, I can make it on Sundays to go preach somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah.
You've been with Inspirations for how many years now?
Over 6 now. Yeah.
Wow. I did not realize it had been that long. That's great.
But now when I started, I was playing the upright bass when so I wasn't singing bass, but so I did that for 2 years, year and a half, something like that.
Okay. Now fill the folks in on your musical journey up to that point. A lot of folks, I would assume, that are watching that they definitely know you from the last several years that you've been actually singing bass for the Inspirations.
Mhm.
It seems like you guys have hit a little hot streak, so to speak, and a little momentum has come back to the Inspirations. Things are seem to be going well there for you guys, and so a lot of people, I'm sure, have heard you there. But give the backstory on the musical journey of how you got to where you are today.
Well, for one, looking back on it, every step was ordered by the Lord. So it's going to sound like this has nothing to do with the story, but it does. So when I was in 10th grade, I had let me take that back. My grandmother's a pianist at our church, and she had a CD, a compilation CD of Gaither stuff, and it had the Chuck Wagon Gang singing "When He Calls, I'll Fly Away." And on the way to church, I would play that CD, and that was always my favorite because there was something about uh, the alto's voice, which I thought it was a man. I thought the voice was a man's voice, but something about the alto singer voice that was so intriguing to me. And so one day I asked my grandma, "Who is that?" She said, "The Chuck Wagon Gang." And so I looked them up just to see who was singing that part. And I got hooked. And
Nice.
so for years, the only thing, and when I say only, I mean only thing I would listen to was the Chuck Wagon Gang. I would not listen to anything else. I'd never heard of the Inspirations, never heard of even Southern Gospel, what that was. And um, anyways, 10th grade rolls around, and I'm not trying to get political or nothing, but they were trying to make us read Buddhist and atheist Islamic books and all that in my English class, and I refused to read them. And so the guy gave me an F the first semester and then gave me a D the second semester because he had never failed anybody. And I knew it was time. I couldn't stay in public school if I was going to have
Mm.
to read all that stuff. And so the Lord led me to a Christian school. And throughout these years, I had been going and seeing the Chuck Wagon Gang in concert. And when I was 15, the Chuck Wagon Gang asked me to sing for the very first time. And this was a little bit before 10th grade, so I got ahead of myself. But when they asked me to sing for the very first time, I thought, my goodness, I've never sang before. I did not sing in church. When the congregation was going, I was just moving my mouth. I would not sing.
Mm.
And so I got a CD and ran out in the car real quick and practiced. Chuck Wagon Gang only has tenor or bass for the men's part.
Yeah.
Tenor, Chuck Wagon Gang tenor was too complicated for me to learn that fast and too high. So I
Sure.
sung at the bass part, went in on stage at their homecoming and sang I'll Fly Away. And then ever since then, they had started letting me sing one song if I would show up. And but then that happened in 10th grade, and I moved to a Christian school. And then when I was in 12th grade, I had never prayed to sing with the Chuck Wagon Gang or do that because I did not want to sing. I did not like it. It always made me nervous, and I didn't think I could do it. But then we were on our way to Stanleyville Baptist Church in Stanleyville, North Carolina. And I looked out the window, and I remember just looking at the moon on the way to the concert. And I just prayed, Lord, please let me sing with the Chuck Wagon Gang. Please. That's the true desire of my heart, is to sing with the Chuck Wagon Gang. We get there, concert goes packed. I mean, packed. Concert goes on. And I see Melissa Kemper, the soprano for them, stick her head out into the entrance after the singing. He says, "Hey, Wyatt, come sing with us real quick." I had no idea I was being auditioned.
Oh, wow.
No idea. I thought we was just singing for fun.
Sure.
And we sung Echoes from the Burning Bush. I'm sitting there smiling like this is fun, but they've got this serious look on their face. And we get done singing it, and the ladies, excuse me, are staring at each other. I'm thinking, what's going on here? And Melissa just blurts out, "Well, I just don't see why we can't make this work." And I'm thinking, make what work? And they start asking each other, "Well, what about his school and stuff?" I'm like, are they about to offer me a job? And so, anyways, we had decided I will go with the Chuck Wagon Gang and we'll figure out the school part later.
Nice.
And so, me talking about how God ordered my footsteps, he made it to where I could go to a Christian school because I went to the principal, and because they viewed it as a ministry, I could miss and
Mm.
catch up when I got back. And so I joined the Chuck Wagon Gang when I was 17 years old, and started in 2017. I was with them a year and a half, and we had sung a lot with the Inspirations. See, I'd never heard of the Inspirations until we started singing with them. And I thought, no, I really like that because, it's Southern Gospel's pretty drastic change from Chuck Wagon Gang, so simple. And
Sure.
so I had become friends with them. And the Inspirations, when we sang together, would ask me to come sing songs on stage with them. And then the week before Quartet Convention of 2018, I left the Chuck Wagon Gang. And at the convention, the very next week, Archie hired me. And what people don't know is he originally hired me to play the guitar because Roland was playing the bass, Matt Dobler was singing lead, and the older guys had come back.
Yeah.
So he originally hired me to play the guitar. I have no idea how to play the guitar. And he said, well, that's okay. If you just hit a right chord here and there, you'll be fine. But God had it planned all along because the very next day after I got hired, Matt Dobler was in a bad car wreck. And so that moved Roland from playing the bass to singing lead, but I knew how to play the bass. And so I only had to do one concert playing the guitar, and it was so bad. Luke's still mad at me for that. And so
I
I played
bet.
the bass for until COVID. I played the bass until COVID. And then when COVID hit, this young guy started.
Yeah. That's awesome. Now I want to go back to that um the thing in school you were talking about with the English, was it an English class or a history class or whatever? How
Just
did
human.
So yeah, you hear stories like this from time to time from individuals that do that. So I would like for you to share a little bit more in depth on of how that went down for you as far as saying, "Nah, I'm not going to do that." And the overall reaction from the teacher or the school leadership.
So we were given a list of books to read, and we weren't expecting like religious books, so my parents just signed it and went on. And so it come time to read the books, and I was like, whoa, ain't no way I'm gonna fill my head with this garbage. And so and it's crazy how the questions were even asked on the test. They were opinion questions, and I still got them wrong. How you get an opinion question wrong? Like one of them was, how did the Buddha reach enlightenment? And I'm like, he didn't. And I even wrote down scripture, about how Jesus Christ was the Son of God and all that, and he's the only way. And when I got my test back, the teacher had scribbled on the side, um, I appreciate your opinion, but you didn't even read the book, and he marked it wrong. And so the teacher, he had a talk with me and was like, you got to do something because I've never failed a student before, and you're on your way. And
Hmm.
if you don't read these books, and he said, just for a moment, suspend your religious disbelief and read the books. I said, sir, for me to suspend my religious disbelief would be to pretend that for just a second to pretend that Jesus Christ wasn't my Lord and Savior. Sir, I'm not going to do that.
Hmm.
And so I got a F the first semester and I got a D the second semester.
Was there any recourse like from school leadership, or was it just kind of just handled between like you and your family and the teacher? Just kind of it is what it is type of thing.
We didn't do nothing. My parents didn't even talk to him. We were just like, okay, it's time to move,
Yeah, sure.
to go to a Christian school.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's one thing that I do. I went to both public and Christian school, and my boys currently go to a Christian school, and that's one thing that we have always appreciated about the Christian schools is their independence from the say the governor of the state or
Yeah.
the school board or the elected officials, whatever, to dictate. Um, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable, what will be taught, things like that. And so I've always appreciated the independence that Christian schools do have. And also saying that, I also, part of that independence is also the fact that you can go to them and say, hey, I want to be part of this ministry with the Chuck Wagon Gang and be
Yes.
able to go out and do this ministry and there not be any issues. As long as I'm getting my schoolwork done, I'm still coming to class, the majority of the time. I'm just going to miss sometimes.
Mhm.
And them having the leniency and the independence to do that. I love that about the Christian school.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you live in North Carolina, and of course everybody heard a whole lot the last few couple months ago, really, about devastation over there. And I think I remember seeing on social media that you had some damage out around where you live. Do you want to give a backstory on how that played out for you, and share kind of what may be happening now, in that part of North Carolina?
Oh my. If I tell my story on the way from Pigeon Forge, because we were at convention,
Yeah, yeah.
that um God had his hand of protection on me. So at first I was upset that I was at convention when all that happened and not at home with my family. And but when all that happened, everybody around town went and bought every generator possible. So God had it planned for me to be in Pigeon Forge where I could pick up a generator,
Hmm.
take it home to my family. But now, brother, that drive home, you've seen that picture of the gorge where half the roads broke off down into the water.
Yeah.
I was driving on roads like that, driving over power lines, driving over trees in my Highlander,
Hmm.
and it was just absolutely uh, terrible. And I watched a house on fire. I mean, how I made it home was just a miracle of God. I was driving, I can't remember what route I went, but it went through Spruce Pine and all that, Beulah Dean. And anyways, I watched a house on fire. No way for a fire truck to get to it. Absolutely no way for a fire truck to get to it. Um, uh, Roads broke down into the water and driving on that, just praying that I didn't go down with it. And I got lost. It's awful. Everywhere I went, I was lost. It would say road closed, road closed, road closed. Well, finally, this dirt biker come up, and I was like, "Sir, do you know how to get uh, to Morganton?" He was like, "I don't know where Morganton is, but if you go down here, it'll take you into town." Thank you. And I got into town, and I finally made it to Spruce Pine, and I was rattled. So I pulled into a Dollar General parking lot and just got out of my car and was just, you know, after all I'd
Sure.
seen the house and all that. And this van pulls in front of the ice machine, and this was why I acted like this. I don't know. Maybe just the peace of God. But anyways, so the guy, we just stare at each other a little bit. I'm like, why is this weird looking van just sitting here. And this guy gets out in the passenger seat with bolt cutters and goes around. And the guy in the driver's seat comes out and he's got a gun. And he walks around and looks like he's starting to walk towards me. And I just turn around and start minding my own business and start praying or start singing "'Tis So Sweet to Trust in Jesus" out loud. What they were doing was they were stealing ice out of that ice machine.
Mm,
And I was just praying and singing and praying that that guy wasn't behind me with the gun. And I could hear him tossing the bags of ice. And then after I finished singing, I turned around and they were gone.
wow.
And
Over some
then,
ice. That's crazy. Over
oh yeah,
ice.
and that's a hot commodity. When you have no power, ice is one of the hottest commodities ever. I didn't realize that until then.
Huh. So, I mean,
And
I mean, where would they keep it frozen?
I don't know.
Oh, well. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Um, and then on my way, the road to Morganton from where I was at was closed. And I pulled up and there's a state trooper in front of it. And I said, "Sir, do you know how to get to Morganton? I see this road's closed. Do you know how to get to Morganton?" He's like, "Well, this is really the only way." I said, "I've got to get this generator to my family." And he said, "Well, I'll let you by, but you have to turn left at this road." And he showed me where. It's like, "Okay, thank you so much." And so I turned and it took me to 181 and finally down to Morganton. So the Lord really helped me get home, that's for sure. And I got home. For one, Morganton was underwater. And then there's a tree on top of my house. And I was living with mom at the time, and I was in the process of buying this house. And but it only made a hole like that big. That
Hmm.
ginormous tree just barely did anything. And excuse me, if it had been over just a little bit, it could have just smashed right through the whole house. But that hole was just in the garage. So,
Wow.
but there's a lot of people that's got it a lot worse than us.
Sure.
And we're doing a benefit singing this Sunday for them too.
Now, what has, you don't hear much about it in the news right now because, we had the election and then just everything it seems like news cycle just keeps going. And so you don't see it as much right now. So what's been going on over there since you got home and since everything went down?
Well, those places I drove through, I don't know that they'll ever be back to the way they were. But Morganton is pretty much back to normal from what I've seen. I mean, we the house that I bought only lost power for a couple days, and mom, we were out of power for a few weeks or for a few weeks, excuse me, few days or a week, something like that. No water, no power. Um, but it's back to normal now.
Nice. When I listen to you sing, it reminds me of Mike Holcomb. I don't know if you hear that a lot. I was talking with another bass singer the other day. We were doing an interview and we were just talking about how folks will come up to you a lot of times, and if they enjoyed your singing, they will kind of compare you to whoever their favorite bass singer is, whether you actually sound like them or you don't. Like, I don't think I sound anything like JD Sumner, but people will be like, "Man, you sounded just like JD tonight," and I'm like, "Ah, okay," like whatever. But I do feel like I hear some of resemblances to Mike Holcomb in your singing. Is that something you've worked on? Is that something, or is it just naturally how you just came into your own as a bass singer and it just happens to kind of have the same type of tone and style of singing?
I think it just comes with the inspiration style because I didn't listen to Mike a whole lot. I mean, my favorites was Big Chief and London Paris and people like that. So I think it just comes with the style, and a lot of times people have heard Mike Holcomb do these songs so much that they can't help but think about Mike.
Right.
And they even think, I used to move a lot more than I do now on stage, but they even thought that I was copying Mike in my movements. I'm like, I guess it just comes with the style. I don't know. But, mhm. But the weirdest comparison, and this is the truth, and this was when I was with the Chuck Wagon Gang, the weirdest comparison I've ever been talked about is we were in, see, where were we? It was either Southern Alabama or Florida in that area, And there was some people from England, and they said, I don't know how this is crazy, but they said Freddie Mercury. Like, what? There's no, I don't know. There's not even close.
You never know, man. I think I've heard over the years, I think I've heard just about every bass singer imaginable. That I mean, when you've been singing for 20 years, this year is my 20th year. It's like you're going to hear everybody that's come across the stage at some point, more than likely. Um, Tell me a little bit about, um, we're talking about stylistically the bass singer and things of that nature with your singing. You mentioned James Weatherington and London Paris, but who are some of like your mentors, favorite musicians, favorite singers that you've kind of looked up to or kind of gained a little bit of insight from as you've gotten into doing this more of a full-time career style basis?
you
And go get a cup of
know,
coffee if you need to clear your throat a little bit. That'll work.
I I don't really know of any mentors. Uh, a, a lot of encouragers. Um, big. Ray Dean has been probably the biggest encourager to me. Ray Dean Reese. Um, yeah, him for sure. He's been the biggest encourager, even though he slaps me on stage. He's been the biggest encourager. Really, every bass singer. I mean, you too have just been really encouraging. You know,
Sure. Well,
I
it's kind of a brotherhood in a way, and I've mentioned this on some other interviews that I've done with bass singers specifically, is that it's kind of a dying art.
mhm.
And so anything we can do to encourage each other, and I've had encouragement over the years from some guys that are 10, 20 years older than me, that encouraged me when I got into the music when I was 21, 22 years old. And then now that I'm 20 years in, hopefully I can encourage and let some other guys know that, man, keep working at it, keep singing. You've got good chops for it. Develop your own style, do your thing, because we're not seeing a lot. First off, we're not seeing a lot of people sing in church in general. Um, but
Mm,
secondly, for young men to pick up the bass singing part for a male quartet, we're just not seeing a lot of that these days.
yeah.
I mean, do you see that in the circles that you guys kind of run in, or do you still feel like it's going pretty strong as far as younger bass singers and guys wanting to do the music?
The only upcoming bass singers that we run into are like 6 years old that hear us, and think the bass part's so cool that they're just growling. And so it's really just kids that think the bass part's cool. I really can't think of any upcoming bass singers that I've heard.
Sure. Well, I know, you're what are you 20, 23, 24 now,
Uh,
25?
mhm.
Uh-huh. So, I would still consider you a younger guy, for bass singing, even though you've been doing it for 4 or 5 years now. Um, We got a 18-year-old, 19, well, actually 19, traveling with Ernie Haas now, singing bass.
Yeah.
Um, they got the guy with the Kingsman. I'm not for sure how old he is, but he's kind of newer to the scene, if you will. So I know there's a few guys coming around, which is great.
Mhm.
Um, when I started with Legacy Five, I had a bass singer come up to me and see, I was 29, I think, when I started with Legacy Five. I had a bass singer come up to me and say, "Man, just keep doing what you're doing because there's younger guys watching you that hopefully will want to get into this business." And so I definitely echo that to any of the younger bass singers that are coming around. Man, just keep doing what you're doing and practicing your art because it is definitely an art to it. And with that being said, what have you found to be most helpful in your journey at specifically as a bass singer to develop that art of doing it?
Smoking. No, I'm just playing.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what JD would tell you to do.
right. No, I'm just playing. Really, time is your best friend when
Sure.
you're young. When I was at the Chuckwagon gang, an E was my limit, that higher E. And so over the years, time has just been my best friend. And people all the time ask me like technique. I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just open up and try, really.
Sure.
I do know, like, if you push your chin out a little bit, it can make it sound a little bigger.
Yeah.
But that's about all I do.
Well, and I've echoed the same thing. And folks watching, if they've watched any of the interviews that I did with bass singers, where we've talked like technique and style and like uh, rehearsing and trying to develop your voice, I've echoed pretty much the same thing you just said. Like I can't tell guys how to do what I do. Like I don't know the nuts and bolts of it. I can't tell you the ins and outs of how it works, how I do it. Um, I just encourage them to um, find their own thing. There's plenty of stuff on YouTube from all these different styles and of bass singing kinds and genres of music, especially when you get into more of the a cappella world that
Yeah.
these guys are using all different sorts of techniques and styles. And you don't hear that a lot from more of the Southern gospel bass singer circles. A lot of them will say, well, I'm trying to do it like Tim Riley did or like Jeff Chapman's currently doing it type of a thing. Yeah, that's what you hear a lot of. And so it's interesting to hear all of that. But I'm with you at the end of the day. I can't tell you how I do what I do. I just kind of figured it out for how I do it.
Yeah. People come up to me and be like, "Oh, you were doing chest fry." I'm like, "Well, good. I don't know what that is." You know. But
Yeah,
the main thing when people ask me, um, and I heard Eric Bennett say this, the main thing I tell people is to not worry about singing it here, but sing it from here,
sure,
and stay in the word till your cup's overflowing so that it can overflow to the people.
sure.
And I think a lot of times, me included, I'm the worst for it, is we're so focused on the actual singing part, we forget about the message we're actually conveying to the people. And so I tell them to just focus on the message that you're singing.
Yeah, that's good. So the future for you, do you see it more preaching, more singing? What do
More both, probably.
you?
More both. I'm going to be run to death, I'm sure. But they're starting to try to book revivals. I've got a revival booked in April, and so I'm going to be a busy man.
Sure. I've seen you run around with the Rogers family. I think I've seen some videos with them.
Oh yeah.
Talk a little bit about singing with them. That kind of gives you that family quartet sound. I don't know that you're related, but everyone else there is.
Right. Well, see, my heart will always be with the Chuck Wagon Gang. I love mixed soprano, alto, tenor, bass. That's my favorite. Um, and so we had met the Rogers a few years ago, and they live about an hour from me in Rutherfordton, North Carolina. And they had just asked me to come eat with them. And so I went and ate supper with them one time. And I thought, well, we're here. We might as well go sing. And so we just went upstairs and started singing around the piano. And they travel and sing at like tent meetings or revivals and all that. And we started singing around the piano, and I thought we ought to start going live and doing requests and stuff. And so we started doing that, and we've done quite a few. And a lot of people watch those more than I thought.
Sure.
And they're just genuine, very traditional people. I really enjoy singing with them when
Nice.
I can.
Yeah. Last question for you, man. So there's a lot of women watching this that are having granddaughters. And of course, I'm sure you guys, some of you guys probably get that question a lot on the road. So, if you single guys in your group. So what's the love like look like for you, man?
Love life is there's somebody, but it's kind of under, she's kind of under the radar right now, you know.
Okay. So you're kind of spoken for, but it's not public yet.
Right. Unfortunately, I've had to learn the hard way is the less people know about your business. You know this, don't you, brother? The less people know about your business, the happier you are.
I love it, but of course I had to ask because I'm sure all the grandmas out there are wondering and would come up to you at concerts. I know I heard it a lot and when I was with a group called Sold Out because we had several guys in the group that were single at that time. And so we would hear it a lot, I've got a granddaughter about your age. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure you hear that on a regular basis. So I had to get that in there for those grandmas watching.
Oh yeah. But see, now I was the dummy that proposed to a girl at quartet convention on stage. You remember that?
I do not remember that. When was
Oh
that?
my mercy. I was with, see, at the time I thought, well, I guess all girls are crazy, so I might as well find one that, seems like a good Christian and go for it. A couple years ago, I was at convention and proposed on stage to her, and she said yes and all that. But buddy, when that ring got on that finger, it was just like that. She turned crazy.
Hmm.
I had to cut that off, but so that's the lesson I learned to be private.
I would say that would do it. There's
Yeah.
been some memorable things I've seen happen on the NQC stage. Um, and I did not know about that, but unfortunately it didn't work out, I guess, man. That's a bummer or,
Fortunately,
or a blessing.
yes, yes.
Well, man, I've enjoyed it today. Thanks for your time again. I mean, you want to share with the folks any social media, website, any of that kind of stuff?
Um, well, the inspirationsquartet.com. And then of course my Facebook page is just Wyatt Austin. And that's it basically.
Cool, man. Well, I hope you have a great day, and thank you all so much for joining us and it being here for this chat that we had today. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more interviews with your favorite gospel music artist and to hear some more solo music from me. Wyatt, I appreciate you and look forward to seeing more on social media and hearing more from your preaching and your singing in the future, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having me.
You got it.